Third round action in the FA Cup today. Let's start, shall we, at Old Trafford. Manchester United with a 1-0 victory over Watford. McTominay's early goal enough to see United through to the fourth round. Shaka, Hislop and Craig Burley with us to reflect on what we saw in England today.
Don't.
I haven't even said anything yet.
Well, I know, but I'll give you the answer to your question. What do you want me to say about this? You know what? Man United are in the next round. You can't read anything into it. They were able to change the team. There's nothing that happened there in the FA Cup today. I'm going to tell you, that was, West Brom going out, but they've been terrible. Leicester, here's a story. Leicester played their strongest team, I think. So maybe that's an intention of Brendan Rodgers. Maybe he thinks he can win it this year. But listen, there's nothing to say about Man United winning at home or any team like Liverpool or City, one of the big boys beating a championship side at home in the third round of the FA Cup behind closed doors. I'm sorry.
Craig does bring up a point behind closed doors, Shaka. Obviously, in these sort of rounds and these sort of knockout competitions, the audience adds a lot to it. Is there a suggestion that maybe the FA should have addressed this and, I don't know, maybe let the bigger boys come in later in the tournament, or just looked at maybe just scrapping it for this year?
I think the bigger boys would have been happy coming in later on every single year, not just this year, given the amount of football that the top players in the world currently play between club and international duty. So that maybe could have set the stage for what's to come. But in these early rounds, in all honesty, whether the crowd was there or not, I'm not sure that Manchester United against Watford in the third round is a spectacle that is worth discussing. And unless there's an upset, what's there to talk about? In the same way we spoke about Spurs and Liverpool and their respective victories, this is just like, okay, you won, you move on, let's move on.
I think that's a good point, Dan, that, the football in general is difficult to dissect currently unless it's a couple of the big teams going at it or a relegation battle or something, unless you're a fan of a smaller club lower down in divisions. And look, I get the argument. There's been arguments for years now about replays and how this helps smaller clubs down the tiers to survive. But we're in an unprecedented time here, and I know we carry these competitions on our network, and they are good competitions. They're maybe not what they once were, but they're still good competitions, particularly when there's full houses, particularly when you get to the quarters, the semis, and then you get to Wembley. We have the Carabao Cup and we have the FA Cup. But I do believe in these circumstances that we all face around the globe that these cup competitions should have been scrapped this year for 1 year only. And let the bread and butter of the Premier League get on with its job because the COVID cases, as we know, in particular in the UK, have spiked so much in the last couple of weeks. It's incredible. I mean, it's dangerous. And then we have all these smaller clubs coming in and people travelling there. And the fixture congestion, we're all talking about it because Premier League games are now being postponed because players, not just players, but certainly high-profile players, have been breaking COVID rules. On top of that, people in general have been getting it. So the difficulty is in the schedule itself. And as difficult it is, because as you know, Shaq and I both have great fond memories of, fond memories of the FA Cup, good and bad. But I mean, if you get to a final and you lose or whatever, it doesn't matter. It's the memories are still there. So it's not easy to say that I think we could have been doing without this competition this year, but I really do. And, I think the FA, in some sense, are not as draconian as they once were. But even today, for example, we don't have the replays, but we still had extra time in a couple of games, at least a couple of games. The Arsenal game, which I know we'll talk about, did not go to penalties, but it might have done. The Burnley game went to penalties. Now, we don't even need the extra 30 minutes. At the very best, you say, look, we play the 90 minutes. If it's still level, we go to penalties. You have to do your utmost in these circumstances to have player welfare at the front of your at the front of your mind. So, yeah, I think that's what I would say. There will be lots of people who would argue against me, and I get that. But I think it's an unprecedented time we're in, and to try and shoehorn these other competitions in, I think is pretty needless.
And of course, that's from the perspective. Go on, Shaq.
Sorry, I just think the challenge to that, Craig, is unless there's a suspension of football, like even the league for 3 or 4 weeks, it's hard to justify calling off the FA Cup in its entirety, because I think both cups are already slightly damaged from a damaged brand from when we played. And a lot of people look to Manchester United sending, I think they were still defending champions, I'm trying to remember what year, sending the team to the World Club Championships as opposed to defending their FA Cup title. As kind of the start of an unraveling of FA Cup, kind of how the esteem around the FA Cup. So if you have league football continuing, every week as it were, and you suspended the FA Cup, my concern is that wonderful competition as we know it takes an even more meaningful hit, and I'm not sure it can afford that.
We saw, though, today like a little glimpse of the magic, though, which obviously we bang on about when you're talking about the FA Cup. For example, Chorley Town getting the victory against Derby County. Brilliant scenes of them all singing Adele. So as much from a big club's perspective, you can say, look, they need to rest. We need to postpone this tournament. For them, that's the biggest day of their professional lives, isn't it, Craig? You're taking that away from them.
Well, yeah, you're potentially taking it away for a year. And look, they might not get that draw again, albeit I believe I think it was Derby's under-23s. I might be wrong.
Yeah, there was
COVID.
It was very much a secondary team.
Yeah, but it's still, obviously, my old club Derby, still a name. It's still a club that's steeped in history with league wins and success in Europe, and albeit that was way back in the, I think, 70s or whatever it was. But yeah, you're absolutely right. And I've travelled, and Shaka and I have travelled to these smaller clubs, both in pre-season friendlies and in cup competitions, and we've seen what it means to these guys. These guys who, come up through the ranks the same as the rest of us, but don't quite make the grade at elite level football, and so they roll their sleeves up and try and earn themselves a living and put food on the table like most working people. And for them it's a once in a lifetime, and I understand that. But we're talking about a pandemic here, and if we're talking about the UK in general, it is absolutely flaring its head in the UK like nobody's business again, and so it's not going away, particularly in that part of the world. So unless this rollout of the vaccine happens amazingly quickly in the next 3 to 4 weeks, we're going to see more games called off and more cases and more fixture postponements. And that's what I'm saying, eventually where the issue is going to come. Look, the league for all these clubs, including the likes of Chorley and others, no matter what level you're playing at, the league is your bread and butter, whether it be the 5th and 6th tier in England or the Premier League. And unfortunately, the cup competitions are going to have to get a back seat. I might be wrong. We might be able to squeeze them all in. I know the Carabao Cup final is much later than it normally is. The FA Cup final, we'll see if we even get there. We might not even finish the Premier League season. Who knows? It's all very much of an unknown at the moment. But I do think it is something that should have been thought about. Maybe it was, but they're attempting to squeeze it in. I'm just worrying whether, with what's happening back in the United Kingdom, whether they're going to be able to do that.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.